Good afternoon, everyone. It's December 8th, 2024. Again, you're going to see my computer because I have a sinus infection and I've just been laying in bed most of the day, the past couple days, living on my humidifier and liquids and all that stuff. So, I'm going to be talking about what's going on or what happened in Syria. I've been following it. It's just haven't had a chance to get on and talk about it. So I'm going to talk about it now. I've realized what's been going on. So when the infiltrating or the invasion started with the terrorist groups, a bunch of different ones, that now are all under the umbrella of HTS, which again, former Al-Qaeda, ISIS groups, now have rebranded their names, and some other terrorist groups. When that started, they started their invasion into Syria. They, let me bring this up. I had said in a previous video that Russia was using air defense. Well, they were using some air defense, air support, at the beginning of when the terrorists were making their way to Hama. And then the Iraqi militias were going to come in, and then Hezbollah was going to come in. They're preparing. But the Syrian army didn't really do much fighting. They didn't put up much defense. In each of the cities, it was almost like the terrorists just kind of rolled in their trucks, came right in. There was a little bit of a fight at the beginning, but it was like the Syrian army just stood down. They didn't want to fight, and it was like they gave up. That's kind of what it felt like. And so I was finding out by watching Alex's video here that I have up, that he thought maybe it was the corruption in government, with all the sanctions that were put on Syria, and then also the a lot of people, the Syrian people, were living poverty, with all of that. And so he said that a general, Professor Morandi had said a general was only being paid like $40 a month, $40 a month, and the terrorists were getting about $2,000 a month. So, well, the Syrian army just stood down, and of course, we find out that Assad fled Damascus, and my first thought was that he fled. My first feeling was, oh, well, at least he survived. He and his family, I wouldn't want him to be toppled, and then I started thinking, okay, he probably didn't want to end up like Gaddafi, which had who had a horrible death, a terrible murder by our our people, our military. So, anyway, So Alex was thinking that, it was probably just that was the reason, and Assad had probably fled either the day before they reached Damascus or the day of the day they were, going to make it to Damascus. He probably fled at that time. Nevertheless, he fled to Moscow, and he and his family are seeking asylum there. A little bit of background on Assad. I'll share right here this little clip portion of the video of Alex Christoforou. He's a Greek guy that lives in he's a Greek American. Well, I think he's American, but he lives in Cyprus. but he's Greek descent. Anyway, there's a little portion here that he gives a little bit of insight into the background of Bashar al-Assad that I thought you might find interesting.
He's just not up for the job. You know, Assad is not really a strongman dictator. I mean, forget about what the collectivist media say about Assad. Forget all of the propaganda and the bullshit about Assad. The guy's a London-educated ophthalmologist, an eye doctor. I mean, the fact that he lasted this long is pretty heroic, pretty amazing.
Okay, so I didn't know that Assad was a eye doctor. I didn't know he went to school in London. I do know that his wife is British, so that's probably where he met her. In any case, he fled his government. He fled, and I mean, I understand that he fled because, I'm thinking, why would he do that other than he didn't want to end up like Gaddafi? But there's other things I was thinking. Well, maybe he was tired of all of fighting all these terrorists and fighting regime change wars and all that. So that might be it, but I don't know. I mean, he's been there for, decades. So, and then some of the Syrians are cheering in the street. Well, when somebody is suffering and, economically they're having problems, and they're always excited and they want another, a new person, a new leader. The problem is the leaders for the Syrian government now are all terrorists. And to normalize that and say they're moderated is terrible, okay? Because it's not true. And it's not going to, and I worry about the Christians and other minorities in Syria that are now going to be under the rule of these terrorists. So, we have let me see, let me finish what I'm going to say on this. There's some things that have come up, which is the corridor in Syria that Iran was using to send, supply weapons and other things for Hezbollah to fight against this Israeli regime and to help out the Palestinians. That corridor is gone now. We had the Russian ships that were right there on the shores of Syria in the Mediterranean, but they're no longer there. They pushed off and they're in the Mediterranean still, but I don't think I don't know if they're actually going to stay there. And I remember that, this was a big loss. This was a big blow for Iran, Russia, and China. And I was listening to George Galloway earlier, and he made a point on this as well. He said, China's Silk Road is now dead. And China had worked so hard, to start this new Silk Road, and which made me think, okay, is this going to affect BRICS? How is it going to? If it does, I don't know. But it would be interesting to find out what's going on with that. There are a few minority groups, religious minorities. So there's Christians, Druze, and Alawites. President Assad is an Alawite, and it's a very it's a minority. of the Islamic faith, meaning it's a minority Muslim sect, but it's regarded as heretical by many Sunni Muslims, and most of these terrorists are Sunni Muslims. So we're thinking, well, how is this going to be for them with the HTS in that area? The Druzes, another minority Muslim sect. They consider the Druze as heretics worthy of death. That's what they had said back in well, the jihadists declared the Druze apostate heretics whose repentance is not accepted. Druze men must be killed, the women enslaved. Well, so they have relied on the Syrian government for protection during the civil war, just like the Christians and the Alawites. A large number of the Druids live in Idlib province before HTS takeover, but they were still terrorists up in that region, I think. So, now only 12,000 Druids live in Idlib province today, down from 30,000 before the war. They're talking about the war before this, the 2013 to 15. Now, in recent years, as HDS has tried to cultivate a more moderate image, Al-Jilani has repeatedly visited Druze villages and promised to protect the Druze and restore their property. But the Druze are still vulnerable to harassment and abuse by jihadist fighters in Idlib, and HTS has not removed the requirement that Druids convert to Sunni Islam. So the Christians, the pre-war population of around 2 million, in Aleppo, there's only 200,000 were Christians. That's pre-war, before 2013, 2012. Today, only 20,000 Christians live in Aleppo. Many of those who left fled in the years 2012 to 2016, when al-Nusra and other jihadist groups occupied eastern Aleppo, driving Christians out of their homes and bombarding Christian neighborhoods in western Aleppo with rocket attacks. Only after the government reconquered eastern Aleppo in 2016 were Christians able to live in the city in safety. HTS and its allies have also attacked Christians in other places in Syria. We know that the Christians were bombed, targeted car bomb attacks, churches, and Christian neighborhoods. That's, as I said before, one of my bishops and then the Syriac bishop were kidnapped, and I think they ended up dead. Okay, that's what we were told. Now, in September 2013, al-Nusra fighters overran the Christian holy city of Malua in the mountains north of Damascus, kidnapping nuns and driving out the Christian population. When al-Nusra fighters and their allies occupied the Christian town of Sadid in October 2013, they killed at least 41 Christian civilians and used others as human shields. So when al-Nusra and its allies conquered Idlib province in 2015, nearly the entire Christian population of 10,000 fled. Others were killed or kidnapped and their property confiscated. Only 300 Christians remain in Idlib today. Now, in the Salafist worldview that animates HCS, Christians are not heretics to be destroyed, like the Alawites and Druids, but people of the book. Well, we are actually people of Christ, but Protestants consider the book kind of the main thing, so I think that's where they got that from. Followers of religions that were revealed before the coming of the Prophet Muhammad in lands ruled by Islam, they should be made a protected people who are kept in legal subjugation and pay an additional tax called the zira. Okay, so until now they avoided imposing this tax because they're referring to them as temporary residents. Does that mean they're not going to be there after that? I don't know. How long will HTS maintain this distinction? A key test is now approaching. ATS. Now, this was written on December 5th, so they didn't know that it's already been taken over, all of Syria. HTS forces were bearing down on the Greek Orthodox town of Maharda. Throughout the war, the residents of Maharda have resisted rebel attacks on their town. Yeah, Greek Orthodox, that's what I am. On December 5th, al-Jilani issued a message to the residents of Maharda, telling them that, quote, we have treated the sons of the Christian religion well in Idlib and Aleppo, and in the same way we will protect you and your property. Well, given the history of Syria's civil war and the reality of Christians in Idlib and Aleppo experienced at HDS's hands, this promise is unlikely to be believed, and a violent encounter between HDS and Maharda's Christian defenders could clear the way for more attacks on Christians rooted in jihadist ideology. So, we all should do prayers, as it's saying at the end. They're going to need prayers because they're living in uncertainty. Their contacts there are in Aleppo. They're in uncertainty. They don't know what's going to happen. In the midst of all that, now they're saying on December, so they're saying today, well, we already know that, so Syrian Turkish-backed groups attack Kurdish-held areas, 26 killed. They're already at it because they don't want to see Turkey's against the Kurds. At least Erdogan is, and his government, I guess. So there they go. They already are starting to get rid of them, trying to get rid of them, because, again, Israel and Turkey are working together, as well as the U.S. backing this, because Israel wants to do the Great Israel Project, which takes over, most of Syria, all of Lebanon, all of these areas that don't belong to them. For Jewish supremacy, and it's a Zionist thing, not regular. There's plenty of Jews that don't agree with this. So, and of course, the U.S. strikes ISIS targets in Syria. I find that very strange, considering that we opened the door for the terrorists to go in there and armed them, along with the Turks and I'm talking about like our CIA and special ops people or whatever are arming them. And now they're trying to strike ISIS targets. It feels like it's like we're doing two things at one time that are the total opposite. Anyway, that's basically what I wanted to say on that. Let's see. And I think that's what I want to say now. Let me see if I had any other notes. Oh, and the reason why, like I said, this is so important to me is the two reasons, just in case you all forgot or I hadn't said it in a while. All of this interest in what's going on in the world, or the Middle East, especially, and Russia and Ukraine, Georgia and Romania areas, is for two reasons. My Orthodox Christian brethren in all these areas, including Palestine and all that, I didn't say Palestine, Syria, Middle East, and regarding the prophecies, everything was quiet. They backed down. They didn't. Once the Syrian army quit doing things, they didn't want to fight. They just withdrew. They just stood down. the Hezbollah, the Iranian army, the Iraqi militia withdrew because they aren't going to go in there and fight unless unless the Assad government wanted them to. They don't just jump in there without getting the okay from the government. Not like us. But so I know that Professor Morandi was talking about, he's a professor in Iran, that Iran was still going to strike Israel after Israel bombed them. But that hasn't happened. I find it very strange how things are very quiet all of a sudden in that area around Syria. And there's also Russian bases in a part of northern part of Syria, I believe, which will probably be abandoned. I don't know. All I know is it's quiet now, and we're wondering what's going to happen. All I know is that I don't think it's going to be a good thing of what's going to happen to the citizens. I mean, how can they with these kind of terrorist leaders? But there's something, feels like another shoe's going to drop. There's something out there that I feel like something's going to happen. I don't know. We will see. Anyway, that's what I had for you today. I hope I didn't bore you. I mean, I don't know what's worse, looking at these computer screens or looking at my face. But in any case, if you like my content, follow my channel. Like my videos. Let others know about my channel if you like. Thank you for your time. Thank you for watching and listening. Until next time, God bless.